And welcome back to Newsmax Now. I'm Miranda Kahn. Time now for a look at your money news. And topping your money news today, Time Warner Cable now says it's open to negotiating a merger with Charter Communications. The announcement comes just days after Comcast pulled away from a $45 billion deal. According to Reuters, Time Warner has been shopping around for a merger and also reached out to Cox Communications. And U.S. home prices are on the rise, according to the S&P. Metropolitan areas saw a 5% increase, with Denver and San Francisco seeing the highest gains. But experts say nationally, prices are still recovering. Meanwhile, the U.S. economy continues to recover slowly. New data released today shows the U.S. economy only grew 0.2%. And now some say a stronger U.S. dollar may actually be hurting the GDP. According to the New York Federal Reserve Bank, that could translate into more than 800,000 unemployed Americans. Samsung is reporting lower numbers after the first quarter. The electronics maker says a slump in smartphone sales dropped profits nearly 40%. But Apple's not feeling the pinch. Nope, the tech giant tops Wall Street expectations, posting $58 billion in revenue during the first 3 months this year. The company's growth was driven by iPhone and Mac sales. And Best Buy announced that it will start accepting Apple Pay. Now other major retailers could be following suit. This leads some experts to believe that Apple is set to compete with traditional banking and payment systems.
All right, thanks, Miranda. Now joining us to talk about some of those financial headlines is Rob Williams, the deputy financial editor of Newsmax Money News. Rob, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right, first let's talk about the GDP numbers here. Not good. Some economists saying that the strong dollar is to blame here. Others are saying the weather is a factor. What's really at stake here?
Well, we got weak numbers across the board. It wasn't just weather. It was a lot to do with consumer spending was very weak. Business spending was very weak. And you talked about the dollar. The dollar was stronger, and that did hurt exports. It made our goods more expensive to foreign buyers.
And we saw what was barely just any growth whatsoever in GDP. Do you think this is a prolonged slowdown, or are we headed for another recession?
Well, it's too early to say that we're in recession yet. Last year, during the first 3 months of the year, the economy actually shrank. This time it barely grew. It wasn't very convincing, the growth we got so far. But then it came roaring back throughout the rest of the year. And so that's what's expected now, is that growth may have been a bit hindered during the first 3 months of the year. But from here on out, we should see a rebound.
All right, let's talk about Apple and Samsung a little bit, because both are in the headlines. Samsung, well, I hear from a lot of folks who buy their phones and they seem to really like them. Sales not doing so well for Samsung.
Yeah, Apple has really taken over as far as its whole ecosystem that just seems to function very well with all of its products, whether it's the iPad, the iPhone, or the Mac. Whereas Samsung is dealing with a much more disjointed kind of arena as far as depending on a operating system designed by Google.
Yeah, and their
the
sales
Android system
down year to date, and a lot of folks not surprised in that considering the new product lineup. And also, Rob, we reported on the fact that Apple is making some headway now with Apple Pay. This wasn't really all that well received by a lot of consumers out there, but Best Buy, one of the largest retailers now, moving away from the confederation of payment plans that they had been using before, going with the Apple Pay. If Apple is really able to make some headway, more headway in with their payment system, how much do you think growth room is there for Apple in this sector of the economy, becoming a digital wallet?
Well, it's huge, especially if you consider that about 100 million credit cards have been taken out of circulation in the last few years as people pull back on credit spending and look for other ways to handle transactions. So having the Apple Pay system is becoming a very viable alternative for many consumers, and that bodes well for Apple.
And I know Apple's stock yesterday, I believe, didn't do that well and was actually driving the NASDAQ down. But is this Apple payment plan system really something that could affect their stock price and take it higher than it already is?
Well, yeah, because the company is very dependent on the iPhone, and this is very much tied to the iPhone. And the iPhone's popularity just continues to grow, especially overseas. And so while Apple Pay applies to the United States, if they're able to take that overseas and apply it in other countries like China, then the sky's the limit.
Yeah, we know China has I can't remember the name of the phone maker right now, but they are selling a lot of phones, and maybe that's impacting Samsung as well. But Samsung does seem to be facing some headwinds while Apple just keeps on growing. Rob Williams, thanks so much for being with us, Deputy Financial Editor with Newsmax Money News. All right, Rob joining us from New York. We're going to continue on here. We're going to do our rehash segment, taking a look specifically at Baltimore and some of the most talked about things on Twitter and social media in terms of those Baltimore riots. John Bachman, Miranda Khan will be back with more Newsmax Now right after this.